Hello and welcome. My name is Meepolis, they, he, she, and today we are looking at and talking about Young Men in Love, a queer romance anthology edited by Joe Blas and Matt Miner. Content notes for fantasy violence. Looking at the full creative team, we obviously have Joe Blas and Matt Miner on the editorial team. According to his website bio, the former describes himself as, quote, Joe is a comics writer from the deepest, darkest South Wales valleys in the UK. He is mostly known for his comic sexology originals, LGBTQ plus superhero series, The Pride, now published in print by Dark Horse Comics. He's also the writer behind various self-published and crowd-funded comics, works such as Acceptable Losses, Glitter Vipers, and Miracles, end quote. And the latter, Matt Miner describes himself thusly, quote, I'm the writer of Poser from Waxwork Comics, GWAR from Dynamite Comics, and several comic series from Black Mask Studios, including Liberator, Critical Hit, and Toe Tag Riot, among others. End quote. Then we move through each short story. For second star on the right, we have Tate Brombal, a Toronto-based writer who is working on House of Slaughter, and Jacoby Salcedo, an illustrator in Portland, Oregon, who co-created Frontera and has worked on It's Only Teenage Wasteland. Second, we have the On Point Pirate story, The Treasure Map to My Heart by Oliveira, Gerlach, a writer based out of Edinburgh, Scotland, who writes everything from comics to criticism, and Darrell Toe, a freelance artist that lives in Malaysia. Next up is Living by Terry Blas, who lives in Portland with his husband and does work for Vox, Ariana Grande, Steven Universe, and Rick and Morty, among others. And Bradley Clayton, who originally studied graphic design but went on after graduation to study at the Joe Kubert School, where they studied comic book illustration. Then we have My Personal Super Scout, with story and art by Josh Cornillon, who is from Nice, France, but currently is working out of New York City. Beyond the arts, they have also worked as a teacher. Fifth, we have Theater Kids by Dave Ebersole, a theater director around Philadelphia, Robert Ryan, and Vincent Batignon, a French comic book artist who has also worked on Gloom Cookie. Next, we had a trans-centered story, Another Name, by Ned Barnett, a comic creator who, quote, delights in making history accessible through comics. And Ian Bisbal. Then we have the story Catch Me by Nico Vasillo, Jude Vigance, and Argentinian comics letterer Lucas Gattoni. The eighth story, Long Day, was by David M. Booher, a writer and former attorney, and Vic Regis, a Brazilian illustrator. Next, we had Active Grace by Anthony Oliveira, writer slash PhD slash dumpster raccoon, who also contributed to Shoutout, TO Comics LGBTQ to SIA plus anthology, which I previously reviewed. And Nick Robles, a self-taught freelance artist from Southern Louisiana. Then we have What Do I Get by Matt Miner, who was also an editor for this anthology, Ian McGinty, well known for his work in Adventure Time, Bee and Puppycat, and Invader Zim, and Bradley Clayton, who already appeared in this anthology. 11th, we had Meet Brute by Chris Sebela, self-described four-time Eisner losing writer, and DJ Kirkland, the artist and co-creator of The Black Mage with Daniel Barnes. Then we have The Way Home by Paul Allor, writer on TMNT vs. Street Fighter, G.I. Joe, Monstro Mechanica, Hollow Heart, and more. They/them. And Lane Lloyd, the artist/writer for God Puncher, and more. Next we have the pretty sweet short story Thingiversary by Sina Grace, a comic writer, artist, and memoirist. He has also worked with DC Comics, Marvel, Image, and Boom. 14th in this anthology, we have Love Yourself by Joe Blas, the other half of the editorial team, and Auguste Kanakis, a self-taught Greek artist and illustrator. Next, we have Big Man by Hamish Steele, a Eisner-winning comic book writer, artist, and animation director, who has also worked on Paranormal Park, Crock and Roll, and Dead Endia, among others. Then there's Dancing on the Wind by Rich Douek, a Bram Stoker Award-nominated writer, and Chris Shehan, an artist who has also worked on House of Slaughter, followed by Tyrone and Jamel by Greg Anderson-Elysée, who's also the writer/creator of Is Nana, The Were Spider, David Brame, who my watchers may have already seen on the adaptation of After the Rain, and Vincent Batignon, once again. 18th, we have A Bright Idea by Charles Pulliam-Moore, a former radio journalist and videographer turned pop culture writer, Dennis Yatras, a Greek artist and designer, plus Darrell To, a Malaysian comic book creator. Then, A Bard's Beloved by Jarrett Melendez, an American food writer turned comic writer who also worked on Chef's Kiss, and Josh Cornillon, who works in both comics and illustration in NYC, he/they. And last but not least, we have Pestalida by Little Corvus, a queer Chicanx artist based in Seattle. What keywords came to mind reading this anthology? It's a bit redundant, but definitely love, colorful, creative, and fireworks. The summary over on Goodreads is, quote, haphazard pirates, wayward ghosts, dashing knights, rampaging kaiju, and down-to-earth regular Joes are all assembled here to amaze and delight you in a widely unique anthology celebrating love between men from an astounding array of comics creators who know exactly how it feels. Young Men in Love is a heartwarming, uplifting, and vibrant return to the glory days of romance comics, end quote. Looking at the representation side of things, Young Men in Love hits a lot of different points pretty effortlessly. We have creators and characters of all races, both cis and trans men, and even a diversity of classes. There's also a wide variety of body types and even some COVID masking. The story is easily drawn through all the different kinds of genres, and this was a very fast and easy read. Perhaps needless to say, but in conclusion, I'm giving this a 5 out of 5 stars. Bye, y'all. Keep reading Unorganized to End Capitalist Oppression. And as always, Literally Graphic is created on land that should be given back to the traditional landholders, which in this case is, to my knowledge, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation.